Today's conversation is about motivation. And I cannot imagine a better group of people that need to be motivated. Because I don't know about you, but when you are experience trauma, and I'm going to say that is what grief is. Hey, Lisa, because the trauma of losing a loved one, the trauma of whatever it is that you are grieving makes it difficult in the concept of trying to keep life in. It's like when you are actively grieving a loved one, every day you are trying to motivate yourself. Every day you get up and you are trying to find how to inspire, yay, and encourage yourself. And my guest here, I'm gonna let him introduce himself, and I think you understand why having him this last Monday of going into 2024 was just really good. And I'm gonna say because we had a different date schedule, and then we just talked about it, and this date worked better. And I'm glad we're going to have this conversation the last Monday of 2024. So I'll let my guest introduce himself.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your platform. I really love what you're doing. It's so needful. Um, Grief impacts us all, and as the old cliche goes, that your misery has become your ministry, right? So
Mm,
I'm Ron Zion, and I am the CEO of the Shame Free Life. So the Shame Free Life is essentially a trauma recovery, shamed informed coaching practice where we focus on helping others rebuild their lives one brick at a time by providing the necessary tools, a support system, so that they can reframe their trauma, reignite themselves, realign themselves, and then refire. So I'm just happy to be here on Motivation Monday.
thank you. And when you say trauma, what does that look like? Because sometimes words don't mean the same things to different people. Because when I hear trauma, grief is in that area. And the reason why I think it's important to say that because sometimes people low key think grief is just something you can just brush off. It's not a big thing and you'll get over it and just keep going. But I think oftentimes it's more than that. What would you say to that?
Yeah, according to the DSM-5, we have kind of chalked up trauma to be a
What's the
disorder.
DSM 5? Can we roll that
So
back a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit?
So it's basically a psychological manual to diagnose a person's abnormalities, emotional, psychological abnormalities. Um, Trauma, according to Alan Warfeld, and he's a great author. I believe that trauma can also be rooted not just in a disorder. When you say that a person has experienced trauma, the first thing that we look at, for example, our veterans, okay, PTSD, um, uh, a divorce can be trauma.
Yes.
Uh, a loss of a spouse or parent can be traumatizing, or a child, a loss of your job, a loss of your home, or repossession. So, trauma is subjective. It's not a one size fit all. But
Yes.
one thing that we can agree with tonight is that that grief in itself is a byproduct of trauma, going through the five stages of grief. And it can be very traumatizing. So, trauma, again, is very, um, it's not a one size fit all, because one person's trauma doesn't necessarily mean that it will be another person's trauma. But in working through that and realizing that we all have experienced some type of traumatic event. If
Yes.
you haven't, then just continue to stick around. It's pretty much, it's your
Just
turn.
give 5 more minutes. It's probably coming for you.
Exactly.
Okay, so thank you for that. And I want to circle back to something, and you may be aware of this. So, oftentimes people say the 5 stages of grief, but those stages of grief that Elizabeth Kubler Ross created was for people who were actively dying, people that were terminal. And they've tried to shift those same stages for people who are grieving the loss of a loved one. What do you I feel like looking at an emotional wheel better depicts all the things that a person that is grieving could experience, because when someone is saying, I'm not in there. I feel like when you deal with these 5 stages, hey, Rachel, people are so caught up in what stage am I in? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? And there's more feelings to your grief experience than what's listed in those 5 items. And when we don't give ourselves space to totally grieve and feel that, we'll miss an opportunity to really realize my feelings are vast and there's a lot going on than just these little boxes. What would you say to that?
I completely agree. I think that unfortunately, there is such a shame that is attached to grief.
Yes.
There is a timeline that is attached to grief. There is no timeline. There is no silver bullet. There is no cookie cutter template or platform in one that will fit everyone. And when I say that there's a shame attached to grief, oftentimes we feel ashamed to grieve,
And you're
especially
saying to show
especially
that
as men.
outwardly. Yeah.
Especially as men.
Okay.
We have been taught for so long that to suck it up, don't cry, uh, don't and name the name calling,
Mm-hmm.
and so we begin to internalize that, and so whatever you internalize, uh, pretty soon is going to rise to the top like cream, and so
Mm.
there is that element of shame that we feel ashamed to divorce how we feel, and a pressure cooker is designed to release. You got to release the valve, or it's going to
Okay.
explode. Whether you explode on your spouse, explode on your children, explode on your employer, and so we have to have a safe place to be able to properly grieve and to confront our trauma and see it as being a normal part of life.
Okay, I can agree with all of that. So right now, we have people in the room. Thank you. And most of the people, because familiar with my community, are actively grieving someone they love. There may be people that, on top of grieving someone they love, there's health issues, because you and I both know that when you're experiencing grief, your health is impacted.
Mm,
And so now we have a community of people that we're having this conversation for. They have just gone through, we'll just say, since Halloween. Halloween starts this in the United States, this holiday season, because Halloween comes and you start seeing Thanksgiving, New Year, you start seeing everything. So we're experiencing Halloween, Thanksgiving, New Year's, all of this rolled in together, and don't want any of it.
mm,
Literally, the struggle bus is out of gas and trying to figure out how to get some hope into the new year. Yes, trigger season. And the other thing that happens, where some people in my community that are here, they've had loved ones, or have had so they may have had a loved one that passed in 2023, but they may have had something else traumatic happen in 2024. Or they may have had a loved one that passed in 2024, and they are literally frightened, afraid of a
mm.
new year, and how is that year going to treat me because the other years have not. How do I get motivated or find one thing to hold on to encourage me?
Well, you're not alone. And I think one of the great aspects about what you do, that you have built a community. It's a safe haven. It's a non-judgmental zone,
Yes.
and we really need that. Unfortunately, um, transition and death is a part of life. Um, it really it impacts you the most when it is someone that is so close to you, your husband, your wife, your mother, your child, etc. But in moving forward, a lot of times we can have almost like a foreboding cloud over our heads of the what ifs, the
Mm.
uncertainties of life, and a lot of times we begin to manifest that, right? I really believe that in manifesting hope, in manifesting, that tomorrow is going to be much better. because I'm going to be an active participant. This tragedy happened in my life and it was very devastating. I thought I would die in the midst of this, but here I stand today. So something transpired between the funeral procession and right now. And so since I stand right now on solid ground, I can actually move forward. No, I don't know what tomorrow may be. I have no clue, but I do know that I have come from such a long way and a long journey from where I once was. And that's why I always use the analogy of the rearview mirror and also the windshield. You know, when we're driving down a freeway or a highway or a road, we periodically glance at the rearview mirror to check our surroundings, to see if anybody is tailgating us like a NASCAR driver and they can't slow down. Um, Probably, especially in the Norfolk area, I'm sure. Um, but we never stare at the rearview mirror. It's there for a reason, and it's small for a reason. It is much smaller than your windshield for a reason, because the windshield is designed to be large enough that we can focus on what is before us. Occasionally, we can glance at what is behind us. And we're going to have periodic moments of whereas we're going to reflect on what happened. We're going to reflect on the pain. We're going to reflect on missing that loved one. That is a natural element of life. But we cannot stare in the past. We have got to focus on our future, which is through the windshield.
I like that. I'm going to add this bit from my perspective because there's a duality there. I was with my late husband for 32 years. Yes, I have continued to live. And this year, 2025, is the 8th year of my husband passing. I will always miss him. And
Absolutely.
when you make statements, and I want to clarify this, when we statements are made about not focusing on the past, no way are we saying you don't remember them. No way is it saying you don't look at your pictures. No way are we saying you don't remember the beauty of that love and that relationship. Nowhere is it saying that you don't continue to embrace that. But the part of the pain that has you stuck, the part of the pain that has you isolating, the part of the pain that makes you feel like I will forever be miserable and life will never be happy again. The part of the pain that makes you feel like no one will ever love me. I won't have friends or community. That is the part of the scenario that I believe, can I use your first name?
Yes, please, Ronald.
that, that,
Yes.
that Ronald is wanting to say put in the rearview mirror. Not our spouses, not our loved ones, but that part that is holding us, binding us to the part where we can't get out of bed for months at a time. To say that there is a possibility for me to have something in life that I am happy for. So I don't want to confuse this like, well, no, we ain't put no person in the back, but we're trying to live forward that life exists. And yes, in the morning on New Year's Day, you may say, I do not want to get out of bed because this is trash. Then I say, give yourself an hour to do that. But
Mhm.
after that hour is over, get up, go make some tea, go for a walk, and do something. Because one of the things that he just mentioned that we have to expend that energy. Because if we don't, it will hold us down. You'll spend the whole day trying to fight the grief, the gloom. It has its place in our life that we love. And Rachel Butterlove in the room said this: we loved out loud and we get to grieve out loud. One of the things that Ronald talked about is we spend a lot of time holding it in, trying not to let anybody see it, and we're exhausted. And then we have no energy to live because we've been trying to fight the grief monster that need to do what it need to do so we can go on. What are some ways when I'm stuck in bed and I'm looking for a way, looking for something to motivate me? What are some small things that I can do that will be like, how do I find hope when I feel hopeless?
Yeah, and again, I can't express enough, that it's so good to have this type of community, because just think of the people who are struggling by themselves, who don't have anyone to inbox, don't have
Yes.
anyone to call, and so they are paralyzed in a place of pain, and
Yes.
it's almost like an incarceration.
Ooh.
But there is a key that's in your hand, but you forget how to use that key to step out of that cell. And so someone will come along, your friend, whether it's Tina or whomever that's within the community, to give you that reminder, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text, whether it's an email. I'm thinking about you. Tomorrow's going to be much better. Is there anything that I can do? So some of the things that we can do when we find ourselves in that place, to think about some of the wonderful things that we are a part of or that is around us right now. Because it's easy to, when you have a loss, and I mean a major loss, you suffered a major blow. It's easy sometimes to think that it's you against the world.
Yes.
But to remember that, okay, well, listen, Tina's there, or you know what, someone else is there. I do have something to be grateful for. Oftentimes we forget some of the things that are so pivotal in our growth and also in our support that we have right now, that can get us over those humps. And I thank you in what you're saying to just expand on that. We will have those days. And another part of the shame is people that tell you don't grieve, people that tell you it doesn't take all of that, people that tell you you should be over it by now, as if they are the criteria in which one would look at as being the end all of grieving from beginning to end. But just to know that you have individuals that are around you, that's rooting for you, that believe in you. No, you will not be able to redo what has already been done, but we can walk this journey out together.
I totally agree with that. And I want to add this. Yes, Georgette, totally ridiculous. But everything you just said is totally accurate. And I love the reality because when you are in the thick of it and you feel like that grief wave is coming, the triggers of life, it looks like everybody's having a fa la la holiday, everybody's doing marvelous, and you're the only person having a bad moment. There is a shift when you reach out and connect with someone else. And I'm not talking about having a pity party. I'm not talking about trauma bonding. I'm talking about one day I'm having a bad day and I reach out, and I may reach out to Ron and go, what did that post look like to you? What did you think that meant? Or how do you think that is? Or, give me, bro, you could need some light. I need you to get a lamp
I
or
know.
something.
You know what? I'm gonna do something. If I had to move, I was just thinking
Okay.
about that. Give me
I
one. Give me
need
one
them to
second.
see you.
We gonna
And
work it out.
so the idea of reaching out in community can change the world. We have a grief Discord. And what does that look like? We have a Discord. Lisa's in there, Tawana's in the chat. If you reach out to them, they can give you a link if you message me. And why that Discord is so important at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're not asleep, because a lot of times when you're grieving, your brain is just whirling, 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 and you can't sleep. There's questions going on, there's conversations going on. I wake up and look at the Discord, I'm like, oh, they've been going to town. People talking about what's on their mind. How do you deal with this? How do you deal with parenting? How do you deal with loneliness? How do you deal with all the phone calls that you have to make because your loved one passed? All of those different things, people in the grief Discord do that. And so let me say, Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. So you guys see me here on TT. This is one of 6 platforms that my nonprofit supports. The Widowhood Real Talk with Tina is a yes, is a registered fellow.
I'm
is
just
a
going to
registered
relax. I'm just going to sit on the couch and just absorb this
okay.
sunlight.
Is a registered 501c3 supporting the bereaved. If you click the link in my bio, it shows our website. We have a weekly podcast that comes out literally around the world. Our content is in 109 different countries and over was it 3.8 million views of all the content together. We actually somebody just registered. I have a Zoom event on January 1st because I know that's a really difficult day. And if you go to Eventbrite and you go to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, people are registering for that because the first day of the year, you may want to start that off in a safe space. It's $10, and why is it $10? Because when I did it for free, people was registering and not showing up, and baby, I could be doing something else on my day. But I will give it to you. So that's just a commitment fee. $10 is not a lot. We're on Zoom. Whoever's there, I have activities for us to do, conversations to have. So if you go to you go to my bio, you'll take you to our website, and in the beginning of next year, it'll show all the events. We have a monthly grief support group on Zoom just for men. We have another one the last Thursday of the month that I host. It's a mixed group. There are a lot of things that are going on. We just had an in-person event. Lisa and a couple of people that are in the chat were there. Community, this is real people supporting each other in a very difficult time and making real relationships and real friendships because life is lifing and we are so past the superficial unvalued relationships. I don't know about you, but I don't have time for somebody that's not there. And when I mean somebody, I'm pouring in a lot. I got a phone call, see y'all. A lot of people that need value, somebody that is concrete, someone that is really willing to be there. Because one of the things that Shane Free said that somebody will say, you shouldn't be grieving, is that over? A lot of people have been in the space after the funeral where people have made all these promises and then they didn't show up. We're in the space now that we're showing up for each other because we know what that looks like and what's needed. When a person has experienced trauma and they're trying to avoid it, they don't want to deal with it. They just want to act like it's just something that everybody goes through something, and I don't have time for crying. I don't have time for journaling. I don't have time for a therapist. I don't have time for all that. I just need to get back to work. And if I get busy, all that'll go away. What would you say to a person in that scenario if that's their mindset?
Yeah. So I kind of like it, and you're absolutely correct. I kind of liken that behavior, and most of us probably have done it. I know I have. Um, Becoming so busy doing other things than confronting the reality of our pain and our loss, our grief, the bereavement, the trauma. It's almost like a flotation device. Better yet, a life jacket. A
Okay.
life jacket is designed to stay afloat. It keeps the person who's wearing it afloat. If you take that life jacket and you can go out into the depths of the sea, and you take it down, uh, how many meters, and just let it go, eventually it's going to float back to the top.
Mm.
Eventually. So the grief will come to the top. The bereavement, the trauma, it is designed to float to the top that we can confront it. There's nothing shameful about it. But the more and more we delay it, we're only delaying our ability to walk out our healing. And I always tell people, and especially after losing my parents, and most recently my mother, is that you never get over a loss. People
Hold
say,
on.
well,
Say that again for the people in the back. Say it out loud.
yeah, you never get over a loss. And especially this is for those who are just overly religious. You never get over a loss. You just learn how to manage it.
Okay, now you didn't. So why you say for the overly religious?
Well, because I mean, I'm also a minister, okay? And so I think a lot of times in religion, religiosity, church, churchianity, that we tend to um, relegate, we tend to look at a person's healing by their inability to grieve. Yet the same Bible talks about the most powerful words that Jesus, Yeshua, uttered, and it was two words: Jesus wept. And it was at the very funeral, it was not at the funeral procession, it was after the funeral procession. It was at the graveside of his best friend. So if the Messiah can weep, then what is my problem? If he can embrace the reality of his pain, of his loss, of all of the questions that surrounded why did it happen to him? Why did it happen to him at this time in my life? I think that that gives us hope, and that we can embrace our humanity. It's okay to embrace our human side.
Thank you for saying that because I feel like so much of the church is untrained, unknowledgeable, unaware, unskilled on how to hold space for people who are grieving. I too am a minister. I too believe in Yeshua. I feel like people at church want to give you a one line tag item. We don't grieve like the world grieves. You know, God comforts the brokenhearted. Okay, I've given you those lines. Like you're just supposed to become like one of the seven dwarfs, and you're just gonna go off into work and da 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 da. And it's like there's a process. There's an untethering. The idea that you will never get over that. You will learn to live. I should say there's a potential for you to learn to live in the absence of that person. But for someone, because I feel like it makes people feel like their faith is minimal
Mm,
because they have sadness because this person they love, and I'm gonna say current tense, you love them. This is not a past tense scenario. The duality of loving and missing someone and still trusting your creator, they exist. But sometimes people, religious a lot, make it feel like if you're trusting God, then why are you sad? Because they dead. That is why. I don't understand how you don't see the difference of those. But so many times people will not want to go to church or go to someone that has professors of faith because they're prepared that they cannot be honest about their sadness. They cannot be honest, hey, Melissa, about their grief because someone's going to say, well, I thought you believed in God, and why do you feel that way? Though it just blows my mind when people say that and they show up that way. And then when it happens to them,
mm,
the epiphany of the reality of what that looks like. Yes, I didn't go to church for 6 months after losing my mom. And you know what, Melissa? I can say from my lived experience. So I was a minister at my church. My husband was an usher. When I came into church, there was a chair. My husband got there sometimes before me because he had to be on his post. When I just came into the building and saw the chair where he sat, I had to leave. I couldn't be there because the vision of him not being there tore me up. The idea of all the memories actively, it was hard. And so I just didn't go. I went to other churches. I was like, you know what? This is going to be the time I'm going to visit everybody church that I said I was going to go to because being in my home space was not working for me. And
mhm,
also, sometimes I wanted to cry and snot, and I didn't want somebody that knew me be like, trying to, like, people get uncomfortable when they know you and you're crying, and them trying to go, just let me cry. Don't try to make this go away. I need to get this out. So when I went to places where people didn't know me, then that made it easier for me. I haven't stepped back into a church since losing my husband. I feel closer to God now than be. And you know what? That has a way of doing that because now you're at a space. I'm not taking up people right now as we get further along the conversation for questions if we have time. If his arm not tired, because I don't know if he holding that phone or if he got a length on something. I don't know how we doing this.
We're fine.
So, but when we get further along, we will bring up some people for questions if that works. But
Yes.
the church thing is hard, and a lot of people just don't know. Being a pastor doesn't mean you understand grief. Just being a clergy doesn't mean that you know how to hold space for people that have lost a loved one. What would you
Mm.
say to that?
Absolutely. Again, I mean, we don't make it comfortable for people to act out the normalcy of grieving.
Yes.
Grief is a part of life, and it's almost like it's so hypocritical because we embrace so many aspects of faith and trust, but we shun any type of vulnerability,
Mm.
transparency, that may look like a sign of weakness. But I disagree. I think a sign of strength is realizing that at this very moment I am weak.
And being honest about that.
And being I
When
and I would just say that by and large, churches across America, there's so many that are taking that flotation device or that life jacket of grief, and they are burying it in the water and don't want it to come up because they're busy preaching, they're busy singing on the praise team, they're busy serving in church and on auxiliaries and committees. They're being very busy, but not being productive in embracing the reality of their own pain. And so that can become explosive on the inside. It can become very counterproductive, and just exhibiting a lot of antisocial behaviors.
I would
But
totally agree. And I think when we have a community, oh, you're welcome, Ness. I asked my pastor to rebaptize me. Oh, that's nice, Melissa. I, in looking and going into a new year that can be very apprehensive, what are some things that I could look forward to or kind of encourage myself? For me, one of the things that I know has been helpful, hey, Ann, um, to wake up every day and find something to be grateful for. There is
mm,
something about gratitude
yes,
that is like a it's like when you were you take a snowball and you're at the top of the hill and you were trying to make the snowman and you take that little bitty snowball and you pack it together and then you roll it around and you roll it around and that little bit of gratitude has a way of allowing you to see past the muck that you're in and to be able to see that more than life exists. And when I say gratitude, I'm not talking about big stuff. I'm talking, I got my favorite tea bag was still in the house and my tea was hot. I had the honey that I like and I put it in my tea and I got up before the house woke up and I got 5 minutes by myself. That could be gratitude for the day. Gratitude could be I went for a walk and nobody splashed water on me. A car didn't run by. I made it to work on time. That and it sounds like small things, but when you do that every day, it almost gives you an eye that you are focusing to try to find something good. When your eye is now looking for something positive, when your eye is searching, and now you have an expectation within yourself that something good is going to happen for you today. It changes the game. What would you, that would be one thing that I know and that has been super helpful for me when I go back and forth in situations where I have to pull myself out of it because now I'm fixing my eye to see something good. I'm a fix it type of person. This grief seems can't, no, Manti, it cannot be fixed. It can be embraced. It can be, and I'm a project manager by trade. So I'm looking at something, trying to figure out how to fix something, what to do. And what I have found that has allowed me to live in this is to lean into it.
Mm.
And what that looked like for me um, is embracing, I'm going to be sad. I love my husband, was with him for 32 years, and he is off the planet. How that work? And the sun got up the next day. I was so pissed. I was like, son, I am not feeling you.
Right.
But, and I want to hold on one second. And when I talk about being grateful, you can get this like at the Dollar General, a little memo pad, little
One
thing
second.
like this. And all you do every day, hey, Arturus, you write in here something you're happy about. You write three things. Thank you. Three things that you're happy about. You can write it down and say, I know the sun had the audacity. You can say, my tea was hot today. You can say, my dog came over and licked me. Whatever it is, I encourage you to find three things. Maybe you record it in your phone. Maybe you have a big sheet of paper, but something like there's power in writing things down. Thank you so much to write it down and say, this is what I found joy in today. Dollar General, Family Dollar, little memo pad, put it in your back pocket, in your jacket, and it will cause you to start looking for something good. And when we embrace gratitude and what we're happy about, it has the potential to change our mindset. It starts letting us realize, thank you so much, that everything is not miserable.
Right.
There are, oh, thank you, some things that you can find joy in. And
Mhm.
I almost want to challenge, encourage you to do it. And for me, it doesn't even take a long period of time. After about 7 days of continually writing three things a day that you're happy about, you will start seeing yourself looking for good. Um, what would you say to that, Ronald, or anything, another thing that you think that helps people in trying to pull themselves out of that sticky place?
I think that's beautiful what you just mentioned as far as finding something, no matter how minute it is or major, to be grateful for. There's something about gratitude that makes the heart much better as
Yes.
far as the functionality of the heart. It restores hope. It
Mm,
pulls you out of a place of helplessness. Um, Along with that, when you're going through grief and you're at a place of bereavement, oftentimes you will find yourself feeling unworthy. You'll
ooh,
find yourself feeling less than
yes.
because you have lost so much. So there's a part of you that seems like it is estranged from you. So um, how to counteract that? To do something nice for yourself. Go get a manicure, a pedicure, a facial. Take yourself on a vacation. Well, I don't have a lot of money. Well, just go to the beach, go to the mountains. Treat yourself to a meal. Uh, get a Swedish massage. There's so many different things that we can do to just celebrate ourselves. And going through so much in life and have experienced so much heartache and pain and brokenness and loss, you owe it to yourself to treat yourself in the midst of what you're going through.
Absolutely. And the idea that everything may not be about money. Maybe it's the idea that you're going to take a longer lunch break and check out a book from the library, Audible book or regular book, and give yourself time to listen to that book. Maybe it's sleeping in 30 minutes longer and watching a show to make yourself laugh. I know when my daughter has a playlist of all of the things that make her cry and all the things that make her laugh. Maybe create a movie list of the things that crack you up that are so funny. Maybe there's songs. Like I have Spotify, and they'll be like the songs that they recommend for you. Maybe pick up a new podcast. There's a comedian that's doing something that's just making you laugh. The idea, and you make a good point about being worthy. This grief will make you feel like you don't deserve to laugh. You don't deserve to be happy. You don't deserve to look into 2025 with hope and expectation that life will be kind to you. But I say that head chatter is wrong. I say that head chatter is a lie. If you are here, you have a purpose, you have a reason for being here. The reason why you were created and your existence in this world is not complete. And you are here breathing. You're in this room this evening to encourage yourself, to inspire yourself because you exist and you are worthy of happiness. You are worthy of joy. You are worthy of somebody celebrating you. You are worthy of celebrating yourself. You are worthy of being encouraged. You are worthy. And that part right there may have slipped away from you because if it's your spouse that was encouraging you and was that person that was speaking positivity into you, you may be in a void where someone has not encouraged you. You may have expected aunt such and such or cousin such and such or whoever them that was going to say, I'm going to be with you in this process. But you know what? They didn't even have the emotional bandwidth to know how to be here. And the reason why I know that, for most of us in this room, until we experienced a great loss, we didn't know how to be in that space ourselves. And I would also encourage you to make a list of all the people you mad about that has not showed up for you and let it go. Make a list of all those people, Chris, Brian, Martin, da 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 da. All these people said they was gonna show up and they didn't. And you've been mad, mad, mad. And say they didn't know how to show up. They don't have the capacity. But what I'm gonna get is my support where my support shows up. But all of those people that you're like, I'm mad at them because at the funeral they said they was gonna do such and such and they did it. You know why I want you to let it go? For you. And I'm going to let Ronald talk about forgiveness and the why you want to let it go. But I want you to make a list of all those people you big mad about that hasn't showed up for you in life. And I want you to find a safe space to get that piece of paper, go outside, put it in a bowl and light it ablaze and let it go.
You know, that's so profound because I can totally relate to that. I know during my loss, there were people that that made an effort, in my opinion, to not only turn their back on me, but to completely abandon me from all emotional support. But I had to come to realize that, as you said, that at that particular time in their lives, they just didn't have the emotional or the psychological substance to be able to provide what I needed at that time. But I held on to it. And when you hold, I liken it into a Ginsu knife, a Ginsu knife that is sharpened to perfection.
Ooh.
So much so that you can take that Ginsu knife and somebody would hold up a notebook paper and you just slice it with, just little to no effort. Now, what makes more common sense? To hold that Ginsu knife by the handle or to hold it by the blade? Now, if I had a Ginsu knife and I gave the handle to you, and I held on to the blade, and you pulled that handle. Now you have sliced off my hand. So we hold on to that which hurts us. Unfortunately, we hold on to that which maim us. And when the power is holding the handle, not the blade. And so I had to come to terms with that. I can no longer afford to now hold other people hostage to what they're incapable of providing for me. It is just like holding on to that Ginsu blade, and they're trying to pull away. They want to disconnect. They don't want to support, but I continue to hold on, but to my demise. And I end up being injured or re-injured. So you're already injured by the loss. So now you're injured again by another loss. So I had to really minimize the losses in my life while I'm focusing on the major loss and healing from that. All of the other losses that I look at as being losses, they're not losses at all. I'm going to reframe that. I'm going to reframe it. And therefore, now I'm in a much better place to be able to now deal with my own emotions as opposed to holding someone emotionally hostage when they're incapable of providing for me what they cannot provide for me.
Absolutely. They are incapable of, you said they are incapable of providing what you needed. How did it feel when you let that go and realize they're incapable and it's a waste of your time to try to get something that they can never provide?
It was not an overnight process. I had to forgive over and over again. I would forgive on Monday and pick it up by Wednesday. I would forgive them on Friday and I would pick it up Friday night. There have been times whereas, hey, listen, Jack Daniels and Jim Beam was my best friend. This came from, yes, this came from
Let me
the.
be clear.
So
I will tell anybody that first year my husband died, whiskey sour was like, I'm so glad my liver held up. I remember we're in my house and my mother handed me a whiskey sour. I'm like, now I'm not much on the drinking, but I was like, yep. This is a whiskey sour moment. That is not the long game, but I get it. And for people that act like, oh, that's not a thing, I remember coming into church and somebody was like, Reverend Tina, you are really doing good. I was like, you do know I'm drinking, right? Like, I don't know if y'all thought I was at home floating in the house singing hallelujah and we were singing hymns and stuff like that. Baby, no, this is a process.
Yes.
I mean, I did more journaling, I did more therapy, I did more of all those other healthy coping skills. And if you are drinking your whole way through grief, it ain't gonna work. It's not gonna serve you well. But if we don't acknowledge that it looks different in different spaces, we would be lying to you. And I can't be saying we're having real talk if we're not really talking about what that looked like in that process. So thank you for mentioning that. So the idea that you forgave them Friday morning, then by Friday night you was mad with them again, and it keeps going back and forth until it gets further and further apart.
Because I was triggered. I was
Ooh.
triggered by certain things, and again, and so I am trying to now hold someone hostage or some people hostage that have by their own volition made a choice and a decision to not be there.
Mm.
And so I had to get to a place to whereas I'm tired of this wrestling match of going back and forth emotionally. It's so emotionally taxing. It is psychologically draining. It drains your entire physical being. And so our bodies are not designed to hold that much trauma. You know,
Mm.
our bodies, they remember the traumatic episode. They're in tune with triggers. whether it's the knot in the stomach or getting a headache or, or tension in the back of the neck. Our bodies absorb trauma. And so just as I release those jokers, the family members, the so-called friends, now I have to do myself a favor and release the absorption of the trauma in my body and in my mind.
What does unforgiveness do to the body?
Oh man, you talk about stress, hypertension, diabetes, sleep deprivation, uh, the depression, obviously, on a larger scale, suicidal ideation. Uh, it erodes your entire being, your self respect, your own dignity. Um, you basically you can throw in the towel on life. Um,
And people sleep on how devastating unforgiveness is to themselves. They
mm,
feel like, I'm mad at this person. They're going to have to apologize to me. That person, like Tawana said, they have moved on. They're not even thinking about you. They don't even, they figure they have already told you what they've said and they have kept it moving. And you are weighted down by bitterness, anger, and like you got TMJ over here, like you can't sleep. All of that is going on, and that person has moved on. The only person being hurt by the unforgiveness is yourself.
mhm. Tawana, she just mentioned, she said, how do we get the trauma out of the body? Inquiring
Mm.
minds need to know. Great question. Um, I am such an advocate of therapy. Okay.
Yes.
I think that every counselor needs a counselor. Every life coach needs a life coach. We all need someone to bounce off, and we all need someone to help us or to help pour in what we pour out. And so, along with therapy, um, and everything doesn't necessarily mean that you need a psychotherapist. Okay, everything, every situation, everyone doesn't need a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, but just someone to be able to walk them through the process. Even what you're doing right now, your community is what? Therapeutic. So how do we relieve it from the body? I think that once we acknowledge that there is a tenseness that's taking place or some type of medical abnormality, to now exercise. I'm an advocate of exercise, um, whether it's cardio, whether it's weight training, um, again, massage therapy, cupping, those types of therapeutic physical activities are very good in relieving the body.
The
Um,
other thing I'll add to that is just stretching wherever you feel tension at in your body. So if you're feeling, and a lot of people carry it in their shoulders, in your back, and you can literally Google and look up exercises on stretching your back, stretching the areas where you feel tense, and you just when you're walking and you're feeling that tension level wherever you feel it at in your body. If you're feeling it in your neck, you're feeling it in your shoulder, because that's a lot of places where people hold tension, to be able, because maybe some people haven't exercised. Literally stretching, you can hold a door and or take your, like you can, this is the wall, and you're just taking your fingers, walking it up the wall until you
mhm,
start feeling a bit of a pulling, and
mhm.
that's enough to stretch. And
Yes.
that can be, I just want to add, when you're talking about exercising, how stretching can be a powerful tool also.
Absolutely. There was a time, and it 2021 to be exact, that going through a traumatic time, and I could not move my neck, but so far there was so much tension um,
Yes.
in the base of my neck, and so I tried everything. I tried supplements and it got a little bit better. I went to my masseuse and she was like, "Oh my God, like just and it helped for a little while. I tried the sweetest massage, then I elevated and I went to the deep tissue. It helped for a little while. It was very temporary, but then I broke down and I went to a chiropractor, and he, gave me an assessment, took the X-rays, and after three visits, I never had that issue again. So
Wow.
uh, I'm not saying that a chiropractor is the end all be all, but sometimes we have to, take certain measures to rid our bodies of that stored trauma, because it's stored just like we store files on our hard drive. It's stored in our body.
I like the idea of it being organic. I like that what I heard is you have to identify where the tension is being carried in your body. And once you identify where that tension is being experienced in your body, don't stop until you get that relief, whatever that looks like for you. Everybody's going to have their own way, but one is identifying this stress that I'm feeling. No, I'm sorry, this tension that I'm feeling in my neck is not because I just pulled my neck. This is my body harboring this stress. This is my body harboring anger. This is my body because you're grieving, you're not sleeping. So if you're not sleeping, your body's not resting. If your body's not resting, you're not getting enough oxygen in your brain to think and have good cognitive skills. And for some of my widows and widowers, you're not sleeping in your marital bed, so you've been sleeping in a different bed. You've been sleeping on the couch. You've been sleeping on a chair. I know a widow that went a year and a half sleeping on the couch downstairs and not sleeping in her marital bed because of her husband not being there. And because the pain of that is so daunting. So now the little bit of sleep you get is in a very uncomfortable place, and your body is just so messed up. Yes, the body keeps the score. That is so true. That we are, and so then when you put all this together, I'm mad, I'm upset, I'm pissed at everybody. They're not here. I'm not sleeping. I'm on the couch. It's a perfect storm to be even more miserable. And sometimes we have to step back and go, what are all the things that I'm doing that's not serving me well? And I got to figure out how to get back to what's good. And some
Right.
of those may be, how do I get back into my marital bed in 2025? One of the things is get new bedding. I know I got different sheets. I needed to look different. I had to get a new bed. Maybe you have to get a new mattress, a new box spring. Absolutely. Thank you for liking the live, Regina. Um, Maybe it's the idea of sleeping on the other side of the bed. I when I shifted and slept on Mark's side, I could look over and see my side of the bed empty. That was easy for me to do. But sleeping on my side with the expectation of seeing the emptiness of Mark not being there, that blew me away. But when I slept on my side and looked over where I slept, I went to sleep. I was like, oh, and other people, you may have your pets in the bed. You may have your mail, everything in the bed, all the laundry on the other side so it's full. Or you may get a body pillow. Maybe going into the bedroom alone makes you cry. You're afraid of crying. Let the tears come. Let the tears come. Go into the room, lay on their side of the bed, cry, exhale, snot, and you'll realize you will be lighter for the tears. You will feel the relief. Those tears were meant for your healing. They were meant to release the stress. They were meant to release the anxiety that you were holding. Let the tears do the work they were meant to do for you.
Absolutely. And also our posture, um,
Mm.
it plays into that, because a lot of times, because our body absorbs so much pain and so much trauma, that our posture begins to reflect that. We begin to
Ooh.
now walk or sit in a slouch manner. that now it basically choreographs with the pain.
Okay.
And so we need to improve our posture. So going through those exercises, stretching or chiropractor or masseuse or whatever is necessary, now it will improve our posture because now we feel much better. And we can lean into that. Aromatherapy is also something that's very helpful.
Yes. And like I have this little thing. It's small. You put the different scents in it, and it just yes, yes.
You're creating an atmosphere. You probably have, your loved one, your husband or your wife or whomever. You've decorated the house in a certain manner, and sometimes it can be almost sacrilegious to rearrange things. To
Diffusing
ch-
oil. Yes, yes.
but now you're changing it. Not that you're dismissing or you're forgetting your loved one. No, I'm enhancing it because I have an expectation that, you know, uh, I'm not going to forget, but things are going to get better. So I just want to change the atmosphere. Maybe you want to change the paint, change as you said, change the bedding, change the furniture, just little things to now create an entirely different atmosphere that's now conducive to um, feeling much better about yourself,
I like
garnering
that.
self-worth.
Yes, that reminded me when I was in Pennsylvania. My husband had a recliner, and when I came home from work, looking at that recliner caused me stress because he wasn't in it. There, and so I had to get rid of it. The choice to get rid of it freed my mind and changed the pattern. So when I came in the house, I wasn't automatically triggered by this empty recliner.
Mhm.
I took furniture in the house and I relocated it around and started full on remodeling. There we go, Sylvia, right there. That I full on relocated different furniture in my house. Both of my children had left home shortly around the time my husband passed. So I changed my daughter's bedroom into a study. I changed my son's room into a guest room because people were coming. I maxed out on that 3 week sale at Bath and Body Works. I had candles going, and the aroma changed. My disposition changed as I moved things around. And I said it because it's not about a money thing. You may take what was in one bedroom and move it around and change different things and do things to change your mind's expectation, because if the house or the home, the apartment doesn't look the same, the mind can start realizing that muscle memory that things are changing and you're not left stuck in this place. Hey, Ring, that you have to expect it to show up the same way that it was. And it can be so liberating to, hey, girl, I can't wait to hear how your trip went. It can be exciting to change things around in your home. It can bring a sense of joy to be able to move things around and just go, and it feels like you're alive a little bit. And it's not that you've forgotten your loved one, but some of that stuff in your house you've been wanting to get rid of anyway. Some of that stuff they ain't even want. You was holding on to it. This your time to make that move, to clean up some stuff and change some stuff around. I'll never forget, like, Mark loves circular plates. And I was like, I'm going to buy the square plates that I've wanted. I ain't got to argue with him about it. Not what I was, about, but to be able just to get something else and just be happy about it. It changed. I mean, Family Dollar and Dollar Tree, they got a lot of nice plates and different stuff. And not just in the store, you can go online and check out what Dollar Tree has. And they have a bigger selection there. I'm just saying, they got charger plates and everything.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And and to kind of add to that is that um, trying to get over the hump of if I get rid of this piece of furniture or whatnot, I'm getting rid of him or her. No, 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 you're not. You're just you're changing things. And it's amazing that we right now we're in dead winter. We're in the winter. Okay, we're in the heart of winter. Um, we're going to now embark upon spring pretty soon, and from spring, summer, and from summer, fall. So just as well as the seasons change. Um,
Ooh,
you know, we ought to just adopt that we go through
okay.
various changes, and so it's okay. Don't stay in winter, because I know it feels like winter. It feels very barren and fruitless. It feels lonely, but spring is right around the corner, and
Okay.
and now it's time to spring into action, and which leads us into summer. And colors mean so much, vibrant
Yes.
colors, not just the dull colors and dark colors, but something that's very vibrant. Get some plants if you got a green thumb. I do not, but maybe you do.
That is plastic. That is plastic.
Super. And so, yeah, get some plants and water the plant, um, and which is symbolic of life. You know, just keeping things around us that represent that which is life, because you're still celebrating the life of your loved one. You're not
Okay.
celebrating the death. We're still
Yes.
celebrating. It looks different. Yes, I wish I can hold the person. I wish that I can, we can do the things that but it's the transition of one season into another. So
Mm.
therefore, I've got to adapt to this new season, not physically being here, but the legacy has been left. So the person is still alive. You know, um, eternity is for a long time. But so now I have to adjust to my understanding of how to celebrate now. Um, I'm not going to wear shorts when it's snowing. Some people may, but I'll throw on my hoodie and I'll throw on a jacket. I'm still celebrating the season, but it just looks different. When summer or spring rolls around, I'm not going to walk around with a hoodie like our youth. I'm going to have on something that's cool, and so because I'm celebrating a new season.
I like that. There are ways that we can celebrate our loved ones as we move forward in this journey of changing, hey, baby blues, what life looks like. The celebration of them in this process, because sometimes you're right, when we get rid of furniture or we change different things, there's this underlying anxiety that I'm getting rid of them, that as I make these changes, because life looks different, but every day that you wake up, you are further away from the day that you saw them last to where you are now. And you can also consider your existence part of celebrating them, because you love this person, a part of them is always with you. You may have their mannerisms, you may have a little thing that you do. Thank you so much for liking the lives, everybody. Thank you for the idea of who you are. Maybe there's a saying that you do. Maybe you pick one day out of the year and you do acts of kindness for other people to celebrate their life. Those
Mm.
acts of kindness may not be monetary. Maybe thank you. Maybe you celebrate your loved one that is no longer here. You find a person that needs somebody to go to the store for them. Maybe you find somebody that needs a book read to them. Maybe you find somebody that needs childcare. Maybe you say in 2025, I'm going to pick my day of act of kindness to honor my loved one. And that's how I'm going to show up in the world to make their legacy continue. And that
Yes.
can be so much for you to look forward to, like on this date, and you start lining up the people that you're going to do the act of kindness for. Maybe you know this stay at home mom that is so tired and all she needs is 2 hours by herself. Thank you so much. And she needs to be able to catch a break. Maybe there's a school that maybe there's places where older people, thank you so much, where there are people in the elderly home and nobody comes to visit them, and you can be the person to go do arts and craft. And that is your act of kindness to honor your loved one. And when we pour into other people, it feeds our soul too.
You know, what you say is absolutely amazing because that takes you to a whole nother level of heart healing,
Yes.
okay, on this grief journey of showing kindness and love to our fellow man and woman. So, uh, whoever that you lost, husband, wife, child, parent, whoever, or your pet, the question is that I have for you, how much love did they show you? How much love did they show you? How much love did you feel? And that person may say, oh man, look at that. Yeah. Yeah, feel like Roy Rogers or somebody. But but so how much love did they show you? And forever so my response will be as much love as you felt from your loved one when they were physically here, try to exhibit that same level of love to someone else. And so when we do that, we're still keeping their legacy alive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that pouring into Tawana saying, I never doubted my husband's love because he always told me and showed me. And the way you can show up for other people. And I'm glad that you mentioned pets because pets are important to people. Yes, it's a different loss, but I know widows and widowers that their loved one passed and then their pet passed right afterwards. Sometimes that pet is all you have. You are telling your pet all the secrets. You are telling your pet everything that's gone on, all the things that are going on. And the other thing is when your loved one is no longer here, that person that you pour everything into, that you talk to, journaling is so good. If you have not started journaling, I encourage you to get a memo pad, a binder, and I encourage you to write. And the reason why to write, there's something therapeutic and very powerful about putting it to pen. You can do it audibly in your phone, but there's something about writing it down and then going back and reading that and looking at it. And in fact, for 2025, I'm going to be sharing every week an entry from my journal on the in 2018, year after my husband passed in the second year, because that reflective part of that, I want you guys to see it's like crawling through hot lava. When
Mm,
you are grieving, this is not like some cakewalk where you're just saying, skip to the loo. You are fighting every day for your existence. You are fighting every day to get out of bed and encourage yourself. And that's why I wanted us to have this conversation to encourage you going into 2025. I want you to have an expectation that something amazing, good, pleasing is going to happen for you every day. And when you look for good, you find good. But when you look for something to always be trash and negative, there's going to be enough of it to find it. You have to posture yourself to be. You brought a journal, just need to actually use. Yes, you do. Just write good morning cat to it. It ain't got to be, journal doesn't have to be fancy. It can be bullets, it can be one line. It can be a picture you drew. Maybe it's something you folded and put inside of it. But the pouring of yourself into that journal is going to be part of your heart healing.
yes. And there are so many unwritten rules that we abide by, such
Mm.
as, I have to write a page in my journal. Oh, I
No.
have to do this. There's a certain way I do that. No, we're all teachers, but we're students. We're just learning, hands-on training of how to navigate through life and to try to make sense of certain episodes and events of life, try to learn from it, try to become better from it. And so there is no cookie cutter template. We all are doing the best that we can. But if you are much better today than you were yesterday, I would say that that's progress. Sometimes
Yes.
we are the best. We are the number one critics ourselves.
Mm.
We don't have to worry. There's an ancient proverb or an African proverb that says that if there's no enemy on the inside, then the enemy on the outside can do me no harm.
Oh,
And sometimes we can become our own worst enemy of progress. Of, yes, you have come a long way. I mean, just look at yourself today as opposed to last week or last month. Yes, I understand. You know, you're having a moment. You may be having a meltdown, but look at how far you have come. And it goes back to what you're saying as far as having an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude takes you to higher altitude. It takes us above so we can have aerial vision and not ground vision. When you have aerial vision, now I'm able to see far and wide in such a way that if I'm on a ground level, I'm not privy of. And
mm,
so, doing those things that you talked about, those practical things, it takes us higher, that we're able to see further. And that means that now I can see some hope ahead. I see that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
absolutely. I also would recommend getting yourself a dance playlist, getting yourself some music that you dance it out. You don't need nobody to dance with in your room, in your house. Sometimes just playing that music and that vibration throughout the house. Maybe you like on YouTube, you can get this thing where it's just a fireplace burning. You hear the crinkling of the sound.
Yeah.
Whatever those different sounds are that encourage you, if it's an audible book that need to hear maybe a voice and to be able to have that music, maybe encourage yourself to try out some new music that you never, maybe you haven't messed with music because there was this song with you and your loved one, and all the music that you listened to before always connected you to them. Listen to that music too. Let the tears come as you think about them and honoring the love. There are a lot of things that you may have said, I can't do this anymore because they're not here. But if you stop doing everything that you did with them, there's nothing left in your life to enjoy.
Hmm.
And you may have caged yourself in. You may have blocked yourself in. You go, I'm not going to go to this grocery store because that's where we went. I'm not going to go to that movie theater because that's where we went. I'm not going to go to this restaurant. And you're going, ding, 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 ding. I'm not doing all this stuff because I did that with them. Do those things and cry a little bit. Do it in the parking lot and go to that movie. Take yourself to the movie theater and get the popcorn and the candy you want. Take yourself to the restaurant. Because when you cut out everything that you no longer do because they're not here, you have cut yourself off from life. You may cry a little bit. You may be sad a little bit. But I guarantee you, after two or three times, you're going to find yourself, I'm a baddie. I can take myself to the movies. I'm a baddie. I can take myself and go do this. I can love on me. I encourage you in 2025 to step into loving on yourself, encouraging yourself, join the grief discord, connect with other people. And if that's right, a baddie, I did, yes. And be able to say, I'm in community with other people. We are doing this separate and we're doing it together because I do know the reality. We'll have this live, we'll have this conversation, and you have to choose to be an active participant in your life. You have to choose to take everything you heard Ronald say, everything you heard me say, and choose to use it for yourself. Because you can hear all of this and choose to do nothing. You know where you're going to be? Right where you at. You got to choose to take a little step every day. And I'm going to take this conversation, I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel so you can go back and play it back and go, okay, they were talking about motivation, inspiration. I want to go back. What did they say here and that? You can go to my YouTube channel. I'm going to load it up tomorrow and you'll be able to go back and check out this conversation because we want you to know you're worth it. What
Yes.
Ronald said in the beginning, you're worthy of having happiness. You're worthy of having joy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
You and I have chatted back and forth, but this is the first time like being live in a conversation.
Right.
Any questions you have of me by chance? Anything you wanted to ask me?
Well, I get the opportunity by way of you posting the wedding ceremony. Uh, I think one of your sons spoke.
Oh, I
Did
only have one. Yeah, he walked me down the aisle and he spoke at, yeah, he did. Oh, you've been scared. Okay, yes.
yeah. And so I was like, man, what? I was just admiring your strength. You know, uh, during that time, and it was just so profound. Um, because a lot of people, I guess, are so paralyzed that they're unable to move forward. You know, um, concerning the next chapter in life. What was the defining moment for you? Um, the
That is,
second time around, not dismissing or disregarding or forgetting Mark, um, because that is that's not realistic, and that's not a part of the mission. But what was a pivotal moment for you in saying, okay, I think I'm I think I'm ready to do this again?
that is an excellent question. And that is a question that is so relatable to my grief community. And I do understand, hey, cats, that my husband gave me a gift. And a lot of times people don't get this. The pivotal moment actually, oh, that's right. Love up on my guests. Yes. Thank you. That's right. Um, my late husband Mark, there was a lot of chronic heart failure in his family. He had a cousin that had passed in his 30s, close to Thanksgiving, and Mark never thought he was going to make it to 60. And because of this, we had a lot of conversations about trying to retire at an early age. He passed at 51, and we were trying to relocate here to Virginia to a smaller house so we could live off of one income and make life very manageable. He passed before that happened. But because of that, we had very active conversations of what my life would look like in his absence. And he told me, I want you to be happy. I want you to find somebody else. I want you to remarry. My children were privy to those conversations, hearing their dad say that. We had a will, we put life insurance, we put everything in place that though I may be sad, but I knew what he wanted for me. I work full time. So I wasn't relying upon him not being here for my well being, nor was I relying on needing to find somebody else because I was thirsty and needed somebody to take care of me. That was not my situation. Totally independent and ability to be on my own. So that turning point came by my husband loving me enough to be proactive and have an adult conversation and giving his thoughts, permission, and whatever. So I never had to second guess that. For the people in the room that may have never had that conversation with their spouse, I encourage you to do a practical exercise where you write down to your spouse, I'm thinking about dating and I'm really nervous about that because I don't want to make you feel bad. And then give it some time. And knowing who you know your spouse is, you write that letter back to yourself what they would say. That may give you the freedom and the permission to know that you're okay because sometimes you need to have that conversation even though they're not here. Some people may not, but for some people that is important. That is right, Regina. That is so important that you had that. Learn how to hold love. And so that happened for me before Mark's passing. Then when he passed, I was like, oh my gosh, like he literally left. We literally had this conversation. I don't have to worry about if I did something wrong or right. I knew what he wanted for me. Now, what happened, I was visiting a friend that has been single their entire life. And I like drank something and put it down on the coffee table, and then they start wiping it. They were moving my coat. And what it was, when you've been living by yourself for a long time, all your stuff is the way it is. So you don't know how to have space for somebody else to be in there. Because when you're married with two kids, You put stuff down and it ain't where you left it like later. People them did stuff going on in the house. And so I said, girl, and don't nobody throw no shade at me. I said, if you don't do something, you're gonna have like 4 dogs and 4 cats, and you're gonna be by yourself. We're gonna need to learn how to socialize again. Because I didn't want to be that person. And I also, let me say this. The first year after my husband passed, my only concern was try not to go crazy. The first year after my husband passed, well, the first 6 months after my husband passed, I hardly even talked to my children. I didn't sleep a lot. I wasn't bathing. I was going to therapy twice a week. Thank you. I was going to therapy once with the therapist, then with the group. I was journaling. I was working out. I was coming to the reality that Mark had left this world. I was there when my husband had a major cardiac arrest. I was there when the medics were working on him. I was at the end of the hallway screaming to the phone to my sisters, going, but I love him. How is this how my story ends? So that first year, I was trying to come to the reality. He's gone. And I literally laid up here and did till death do you part. So that first year was working on my whole heart, my soul. It was trying to come to terms with this is it. I am out here. He is gone. And I went months, maybe a whole year, just trying to say Tina without saying Tina and Mark because that came out of my mouth like butter. To save my children, to make life decisions for me. That first year of him passing was me trying to reshape what my life looked like for myself. That was all that I could focus on, no more than that. So after that work, then coming to a place prayerfully for me to say, okay, do I have space, God, to love again? What does that look like? And making a vision board for my life as far as what does that look like? Because I'm a picture person, a visual. And I remember being so afraid to make the vision board because I felt like he died. What hope is there in life for me? I was doing all these things I'm telling you about hoping and doing. And this vision board is big because I'm extra and I'm kind of a lot. So it's big because I wanted more out of life. I wanted life to be as big for me as it had been. Then I needed to have a vision to look towards. And so I remember I'd been carrying magazines around for a while and God like giving me a mandate. You need to make the vision board before you go into the next year. And making that vision board was part of me hoping and dreaming. And in that vision board, I look back at it, I still have it, and it reminds me there are things on there. Hey Ray, that have not come. Thank you for liking the live that have not come yet, but I have an expectation for them to be. So when I worked on myself, loved on me, took myself to the movies, took myself to the restaurant, because my husband had already died. I could not rest my grief recovery in just recoupling with somebody or dating somebody. That is work I had to do for me. And once I was solid with that, to now say, am I what I would want somebody to present to me? Am I in a place mentally, physically, spiritually that I could open myself up to a new person, not a Mark lookalike, not somebody that fit in the Mark mode, but a totally different person. So then I had to evaluate what type of man is going to work well with this version of Tina, not the version 18-year-old Tina that met Mark, but she a whole grown baddie right now. And I also told myself I had a good marriage. I'm not going to be thirsty just to have somebody in my bed that I want somebody raggedy because I'll be by myself. By myself don't mean lonely. My sister lives next door. We brought houses next to each other. I'm not going to be by myself. It's just what life is going to look like. And so after all of that and a whole bunch of swiping left, a whole bunch of dating stuff, and on my YouTube channel, every Friday I put out dating tips. And then came to a place that I made a dating profile. I'm one of 5 siblings. I let 2 of my sisters look at the dating profile. There was a lot of left, 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 and then going, either I'm going to get what's going to work for me or I will be okay. And knowing what my non-negotiables were, knowing what was and was not going to work for me, because I cannot have you in my life if you ain't going to be making it no better.
Right. Right. And let me ask you this question. And being together with Mark for so long, such a long history, and then being thrusted out unexpectedly into the dating scene. But first putting all the work in concerning yourself as far as grief care. But now the dating scene is totally changed because if you're talking about as a youth and you're talking about 30 some odd years being in a covenant marriage, and now you're thrusted out here amongst wolves. So I mean, it was Christ that said, "I send you out as sheep amongst wolves." So how did you adjust to the dating game and emphasis on game sometimes, as opposed to understanding, staying true to your values, your belief system, who you are as a woman, how much work you have put into yourself to evolve into this person that you are now. That you're not about to lower your standards for anyone. So how much of a culture shock was it for you to be out here in this place that you have never endured before?
That is an excellent question. So I did premarital counseling and then relationship counseling, being a minister at my church. So, and I am one of 5 siblings, and I was the only one that was married. I say it to say I've been hearing all my siblings dating stories, the trash experience. So I wasn't in it, but I wasn't removed from it. So, but I was now in the hot garbage myself. Hey, sunshine. So I was like, okay, being with Mark 32 years, how am I even, how does this work with somebody new? Like, how does that concept work? And like, I didn't know if I could literally sit across from somebody else and have a conversation and feel like I cared about what they said. So I started with online dating because I needed to just, and my so first of all, my son says, "Mom, you're going to date?" He goes, "Have you seen you? That's going to be really hard for somebody." I was like, "Didn't I ask you that?" I said, "But I'm worth it, so I don't care what you say." Because he was like, "Mom, you're not easy." I said, "And it shouldn't be. You got to work for this." But he was like, "And don't nobody really want to be your friend. If they not want to do something, just keep going, Mom. Don't be trying to talk to people and be no friend. We're just gonna be friends. That's not what they want." So my children were like telling me. My daughter was like, "Well, Mom, what do you want different than what you want? What are you looking for dating now compared to when you were dating Dad?" And so my kids were actively involved in this process. So that conversation for my daughter, I'm a list person. I literally wrote down things that were not going to be negotiable for me. You can't be smoking, don't want it. I did that way back in the day. I don't want that. Um, I knew at this big old age of 53 or 54 when I started dating, I'm going to date somebody in their 60s. You need to be healthy. You need to be able to go for a hike. You need to be able to go do stuff. I'm not sitting at home watching TV all day. I need somebody that's mobile. I sat down and wrote a list of things that was going to be my requirement. Having the same faith is important and a core thing for me. You needed to always be a dude. That's just me. You needed to want to be in a monogamous relationship. I needed to understand what I was looking for so I knew what to say no for. I looked at it like when you go house shopping, If you are a 2-car garage person, then you need your 2-car garage. If you a 2 bathroom and a half, you're not going to buy a house that does not meet the requirements of you need and you paying that monthly payment every month. Well, you know what I ain't going to do? Giving nobody my time every day if it ain't what I wanted to be with, because I already had somebody that was good. So I made that requirement for myself. I made myself accountable and open to a few friends and my sisters to read the dating profile to figure out what catfishing was, when somebody was playing games, or somebody go, oh, and like, oh, this, that, oh yeah, and just before they ask me for money, oh, and I need $20. Oh, use a DBA phone number. Do not get a Google phone number. Do not give people your real phone number out there, and ask people who have been dating what that look like. And if we have been talking and I have not seen you in a week, we not talking no more, because the idea is to meet somebody. I don't want to know that I had some requirements. So if those weren't being met, boy, bye, because I'm okay. And so but there was, when I first started, there was this guy, he was supposedly in New York, and I realized I needed to warm up to talking to somebody. I never met the person in person. I never met them, but I learned how to just talk to somebody else with them in that process. And it wound up not working because they could never find a way to meet. And like after a couple of months, I was like, I ain't doing this no more. But it did show me, okay, that was a person to help me start talking. And then I went on meeting somebody, like meet in a public place at a restaurant. Tell some friends where you at. Go in with cash, your keys, and your phone. Don't bring your credit card in there. People scan stuff. You don't know what people look like. You pick the restaurant, daylight. Tell somebody when you coming back and what that looks like. And I would go to places, let my sister know or somebody else that was local. And this is where I'm at. I have my money to pay for my food. And you have to think about what you're dating for. I was dating to get remarried. I'm not somebody's long-term girlfriend. You have to figure out what that looks like for you physically. Are you wanting to get in a relationship where you're getting physically connected to somebody right away? That wasn't what I was looking for. Because everybody's not dating for the same thing. You need to be able to communicate what your intentions are, what you're looking for, and don't make assumptions about people. You need to be able to realize, just because they said they like you, you ain't got to start telling them all your business. Sometimes my people and my widows and widowers, we start wifeying up. We start giving people wifey energy, and they on the third date, but because we so much want to be back in that space again, dating is work. Don't nobody want the dating experience. We want to get to the good part. The dating part is very scary, trying to give yourself to somebody because you don't know them until you know them. I had been talking to, when I was living in Pennsylvania, I was talking with this one guy and we were going back and forth. He lived in Virginia, and because this is where I was relocating to, I came to meet him here. Stayed in his place in a different bedroom. He came out to visit. We met in Harrisburg, had hotel rooms next to each other. I had not even touched this guy's hand because that's something very intimate to me. And now we're out there doing that. I was like, this person is holding my hand. Like I was hyperventilating and like almost sweating just thinking of that. And over a course of different things, because I got a lot of questions. I got books about dating and books about questions and different stuff, like how you ask stuff. And if you can't answer them questions, you know what, you not? No more of my time. No more of my time. And after a series of events, family start asking, hey, Bless, a lot of questions and got some revelation, be like, boy, bye, that did not work. And I was like, I will not worry about dating until I relocate to Virginia. And I got here, and one of my soldiers, he was like, ma'am, he had told me he had gotten married. He's like, why aren't you dating? I was like, why are we in my business? He was like, you need to be dating and da da da. And I was like, all right. My birthday, one of my girlfriends gave me a gift card. I used that gift card, went on a dating website called Zooks, and now hot garbage here. this guy was talking to me, and he was like, we should meet up. And I was like, well, he was like, well, you should come over. I was like, baby, I'm too old for Netflix and chill. He's like, but my roommate is going to be here. And something the Holy Spirit said, ask a question about that. His roommate was his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, but they just still live together. And I said, when the last time y'all been intimate? Last night. What are we talking about? Like, you make no assumptions about what people are doing. I know, right? I was like, Smith, I was like, click. I mean, block. And
Mm.
so the next person I talked to is the guy I'm married to. We were talking, and it just seemed right. I cannot explain it any other way. And I was like, can we just get together and have coffee? It was a Tuesday night because I was going to church. And we met for coffee, and I came in. I am 5'9", so my role is you got to be 6 foot to get on this ride. I mean, my late husband and I were the same height. What I wasn't doing, I started wearing heels. I need tall men on this journey. This journey, you need to be tall. And so I remember meeting this one guy, and he was like, he was such a height. And I said, sir, I'm looking at the top of your head. You are not. You are not. So we meet up at a coffee shop that he picked, and when I walked in, he was there, and so the other thing that had been good, we adults, I had been dusty. Mark died. I had no feelings of intimacy. Some people have widow fire. Some people, all of this. Because I was like, Lord, like Mark and I was like on a regular routine. I was like, am I going to be in these streets dipping? Like I'm going to be Reverend Hotina? Like we don't want that name. Like I need her to be on lock. Like, Lord, help me. And by the grace of God, I had no feelings. Like I thought I was about to be a nun. So I was like, okay, we're going to be good. We can rock this out. So that helped me because we have physical needs, and how you working on that? Some people got to take care of themselves. It was dusty, so I ain't have to worry about being concerned. Fred and I met. And I'm a hugger. If I ever meet you in person, I'm probably going to hug you because that's what I do. And I hugged him, and I was like, hello. Hello. We sat there and talked for like 3 hours, just
Wow.
talking.
Mm.
It is going on 5 years later. We do not know what we talked about that night.
Mm.
We went for a date. A few days after that, we met up and talked about what we were looking for. And I said, I am looking for someone to be a friend, to get married, and there ain't nothing physical going on. So, hello. So you're going to need to be spending some time getting to know me. And he looked at me. He was like, I kind of figured that's what you was going to say. But he also wanted someone willing to invest in getting to know somebody. And I can tell you this from people that I speak to, when you put sex early into a relationship, you stop paying attention to what's important. You stop paying attention in getting to know a person. You stop paying attention in investing. And a lot of conversation, a lot of questions, and it felt so natural. I was wondering, how am I going to go from being with Mark for 32 years and even be in a space with another man that it would be okay? I feel like not only are we an older couple, but I feel like we grew older together. Like I feel like we have been together much longer. And so when we got ready to get married and with our pastor and we had premarital counseling, he normally has like 8 sessions and he's ready to do all this. And we come in on the first conversation, he's firing these questions off, and I'm looking at Fred or he's looking at me and we're answering these questions. He was like,
Mm.
y'all been doing some work. I said, no, we've been dating, baby. Pastor, we've been dating. This is what dating look like. Like we too old to be playing games up in here. And he said, there's nothing. And we had to take a premarital assessment. Like there's a lot of questions. He was like, y'all blew that out the water. I was like, yeah, we did. So when we sat there and doing, it made me feel good that we had invested time and really poured into getting to know each other and doing all of those different things. And It has been amazing. I could
Mm,
not, I mean, I don't say this as a cliche, but I look at him and it blows my mind that he was what I wanted. I said no to a lot of other different things. And that potential of no could have been like sometimes we say yes to something because we figure this is the best I'm going to get, but it ain't really what I want. I wasn't going to do that. I was going to be single
mm,
if that's what it took and be like, I was with somebody for 32 years. I know that I've had something amazing and I will let that carry me. But if I was able to get something else, then I'm grateful for that. And Fred is amazing. He is amazing.
awesome.
And the other thing I will say to my grief, my widows and widowers, if they cannot handle that you will always love your late spouse, they not for you. That I got married and I have kept Mark's last name. Fred and I were out like a couple of weeks before the wedding. I was like, well, what do you think about last names? He says, you change your last name, your children won't have a parent in this world with the same last name. And I was like, yeah, you right. And then he gonna say, and you too old to be going through all that. I said, sir, no one asked you that. No one asked you about all that. You should have stayed with your part A of your question. But he supports what I do, supporting people that are grieving. He supports me talking about my husband. He's not in competition with him. There's no competition. You have to find someone that is confident and
Mm,
sure in who they are. And they can embrace that part of that you will love someone else. Now, you shouldn't be comparing and going, well, my late husband did that, and why are you doing that? Because that means you're not ready to be dating to me if you constantly throwing that in somebody's face or you're doing all of that. But when you're in a space that they can respect that it's his birthday, it's our wedding anniversary, the day of his passing, that he can give me space or support me, then you're loving all of me. But we have to be willing to communicate who we are so that person knows how to show up for us.
mm, yes. Wow. That's a whole segment right there. That's real.
I am blown away.
Mm, wow. What an amazing new chapter.
It really is, and I feel like this yeah, I could not I can't imagine and and I don't like to cook and he do so he do all the cooking. I don't, ladies. I did not win him back because I got no cooking skills. That is not what happened.
Yeah, this was handcrafted.
I feel like it was. I mean, but there was 3 years of dating. There was a lot of questions. There was a lot of work. This wasn't. I mean, there is a he is, and he ain't got no siblings either. So I can't even set nobody up with nothing. No, I can't. Um, and I'll tell you this Father's Day. So he has two sons. He's been married before, and he had his children's father, his children's grandfather over, and he had my son over. He did all the cooking, and I was just like, mm,
Mm,
that's what's up. That's what's up.
wow. Got an
And
in-house.
in my podcast, you're gonna there's a conversation with Fred and another gentleman talking about dating a widow and getting married to a widow. To have to see some questions and what that looked like because that's a valid conversation. So we are now entering the third year of our podcast and having a lot of conversations with people to normalize grief. That I feel like widows and widowers should be celebrated. I feel like we should be lifted up and encouraged. We have did a dang on thing. You should be celebrated because you did it and you are the whatever that marriage looked like. You suffered, persevered, you made it work, and you did that. You should be celebrated. We should not have to go quietly and hide our tears in the dark. I look like what success look like. You all look like what success looks like, and how to have a relationship and be there and support somebody when it's difficult, because everybody can't do difficult. And you have done that. And you are a testament and should be celebrated. And I feel like that's something that needs to be celebrated. People who have done a doggone thing, and be celebrated for who you are and what you've been able to do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Self celebration.
Yeah, there we go. Self celebration in 2025. Absolutely. We have, so we are pushing up on 9 o'clock. I kind of usually wrap up because I have to do what? Go to work in the morning. Um, is there anybody do you mind if we ask if anybody wants to come up if they have any questions, or
Sure.
okay. Uh, anyone wants to come up that has any questions or anything? I appreciate you guys liking the live. I hope you feel encouraged and motivated to go into 2025. If you're interested in joining our grief Discord, Tawana's in there, Lisa's in there, or you can message me. We don't talk about politics, and we don't bully anybody. You can ask any other questions, but those two things will shut you down and get you out the live, out of our Discord. The rest of it is strictly up to you. So no questions at all, nothing. If you go to, if you message me, I will send you a link. If you go to our website and then go under events, then you can register for the January 1st Zoom live. I think it's 10 a.m. Eastern time that I'm doing that. But if you, I think I have your phone number, Kat. I think I do. But I'll message you. I think I have your phone number, and do that. But yeah, so January 1st, I'm doing a Zoom live, a Zoom conversation to start off the new year with people. And that's something you can register for. And no questions at all. Okay, you guys have been great. I'm going to let Ronald close us out with closing remarks. And I just want to say thank you guys for being here every Monday at 7 p.m. We have been doing subscriber giveaways. We give something away every month. We have some things for coming up for next month. I did the subscriber giveaway last week around Christmas, but anybody that subscribes, you are not subscribing to me. You are subscribing to my nonprofit. We give away this book. I wasn't ready to say goodbye to someone that has recently lost a loved one. We host a lot of events, virtual and in person. We are starting a grief garden. My church has donated some land to us. We're going to have a butterfly release ceremony here in Norfolk. So this work that we're doing, when you subscribe to me, that money goes to this nonprofit and helps me to continue doing things to help other people. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ronald, for being my guest and being willing to be like, what are we talking about? What we talk about when we talk about it. And to be willing to just step out and have a conversation. I
Yes,
appreciate you.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Any closing remarks you want to give to everybody that's in the room?
Yeah. You can't celebrate what you don't appreciate. And in 2025, the goal is to celebrate ourselves by appreciating ourselves. Okay? And so that means just being kind to yourself, just becoming a friend to ourselves.
Absolutely. All right, guys, you have a good night. Thank you.